All right. So I guess first of all, thanks for those of you attending. The time that we've chosen for the AMA for Money Minds is a little bit different than the rest, and I think that's to accommodate the time zones for this team. So I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. bmoney's in New York, and jkong's in California. So this kind of time works well for all three of us, and that's kind of why we chose this time. But going forward, if it's better for people in other parts of the world, we're happy to kind of switch it up and try some different times, and maybe not all of us can be on at the same time. So, having said that, I was hoping we could do some quick intros. I think a lot of you, if you haven't heard from us already, might be good to give our backgrounds again, and I'll kick that off. So, sakattacking, although my real life name is Ken, I guess was announced as the CFO for PG at the Singapore event, and really grateful for the opportunity. My background is 20 years in the investment banking industry, so that's across mostly Asia, worked in Hong Kong and Japan, and primarily speaking, I sat in the CFO space and product control and valuation control, looking after equities and fixed income trading and looking at the valuation of those sorts of instruments. So that's me. I'll get bmoney to step up next.
Sure. Thanks, Ken. So, hey guys, I'm bmoney. I'm Gen 2 holder, and my real name is Brian. So you can just call me Brian in the chat and whatnot. I'm originally from Hong Kong, and I'm now working in New York City as an investment banker for one of the largest banks. Been doing that for 10 years now, and in a very simplified way, you can think of me as someone who is helping company fundraise in the Web2 space, so not minting in Web3, and helping companies sell themselves, which we call monetize or capitalize, or buy other companies, which we call acquisitions. So financial analysis is pretty much what I do day in, day out, looking at various options of most efficient use of capital is also part of what I do. And I was looking forward to applying this sort of skill set and perspectives to the Web3 space. And until today, I'm still very thankful that Godjira is providing the opportunity for me to think through all these different options. So that said, I will pass it on to jkong. jkong, I think you might have fixed your push to talk, so let's test that.
Let me see. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome.
There's that lovely voice.
So, hi, I'm jkong910, or you can call me James. So I think I've told you guys before, I've worked in corporate finance for about 20 years for several Fortune 500 companies. Mostly I've been supporting them in the capacity of doing budgeting and forecasting, as well as doing strategic planning for some of the divisions that I've worked for. So I've done internal project valuations. I've done long-range planning for the divisions that I've worked for, and I've also done internal due diligence for companies that we might be acquiring for a company. So that's kind of my background. And most people I know, I'm a OG Gen 1 holder, so I've been here from the beginning. So, and I'm also very thankful to get the opportunity to help this project move along. So, so looking forward to many more years to come in terms of trying to build a sucker out. So
Thanks, James. And the fourth member of our team who isn't able to attend today, but I'm sure he'll have the opportunity to speak in further sessions, is Naiku.eth. He's the one non-banker or non-finance person of the team, but comes with a very strong background in management consulting. He's with one of the top big four consulting firms, 26 years of experience, and has added a lot of value to the team in lots of different ways, but specifically in terms of project management, communications, and things along those lines. Now, the presentation today isn't going to be too structured, and basically wanted to do a couple of things. So one, introduce ourselves. Secondly, give you a bit of a feel for the sort of work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And thirdly, a quick recap of some of the finance slides from the Singapore presentation. And of course, after that, we'll open up to questions. And after questions, I'd like to take some feedback in terms of the sorts of things you'd like to hear about next from us. So first of all, the stuff that we're working on, that we have worked on over the past few months. And I guess we kind of started off primarily as a tokenomics team, and that's the genesis of how myself and James and Brian got involved. Was really just before the Jira token launch, and Amresh, Sean, and the team were kind of looking for some advice in terms of how we get a balanced supply and demand for Jira. So that's kind of how things started, and I guess as we got more familiar with the project and the needs of the project, we sort of expanded the scope of the work that we've got involved in. So the second thing that we started taking part in or taking control of is the marketplace. So I think for Genesis holders, you'll notice that we run all the blind bids, and for everyone else, the marketplace listings. So we're kind of work with the collab team closely together to figure out how many kind of whitelists we should take to the marketplace, and how those get priced, and in what fashion that those get run for the community, whether it's buy nows or raffles or what have you. The next thing is with partner projects. So this is something that we discussed in our first AMA quite some time ago, and it's still kind of work that's coming. We announced our first two partner projects that will be coming into the Jira ecosystem, which is Dante Walker Crypto's Pass, and secondly, Amir's Dark Echelon. So that's still underway, and there is a queue of another 3 or 4 projects that we're working with to do the same. So essentially, when the new marketplace comes out, these partner projects will have their own pages, and they will get allocations of Jira token. And I think we talked about this the last time as well. The big difference between the token that we receive here as holders or Gen 2 holders, which is on-chain ERC20, and partner projects that will be coming to the marketplace, is that their token will not be on-chain. That'll be an off-chain token that will only be claimable in the marketplace and for use in the marketplace only. The fourth thing that we kind of started getting our teeth into prior to Singapore is financial reporting. So I'd have to first of all call out Don Aldrin, who has helped out tremendously in this respect. Don's an accountant, and this is his bread and butter, and he spent tens of hours combing through the wallets to pull together income statements. And a balance sheet of sorts, and this is kind of what we'd like to try and do going forward, is to be transparent in terms of the funds that are coming in, and then to be able to say how funds are being used. The plan right now is hopefully to, in the coming months, start rolling out these financial statements on a monthly basis, and we can run an AMA once a month that focuses on this topic, whereby we take the community through how this project's doing, the money that's coming in, and how we're spending. Financial control is kind of on a similar vein, but just making sure that the team here, with the skill sets as we've demonstrated, have an overview over all the financial activities that come across this project, making sure that there is that right control over the resource allocation for funds across different things that the project wants to do. And that's kind of a big part that we're playing, that we start to play and will play more so going forward. From an M&A perspective, this is where bmoney's skill set comes into a lot of use, and James as well, is that we've gotten the opportunity to look at a number of different projects where we are either looking to do a joint venture of sorts, or acquiring them outright, and looking how that transaction might look, right? So I won't kind of delve too much into this space at this point in time, but it is something that we've been allocating quite a bit of time to. The next thing, investment advisory. This is something that we'll probably be doing more so going forwards. So up until now, vault funds have been primarily been kept in ETH or in USDC. There's a small kind of part of the vault that's been allocated to buying some NFTs. But in the future, as this project gets bigger, there will be opportunities to do other things as well. And that's a place that we'll be inserting some advice into. Pitch deck. So pitch deck is something that bmoney has been building, and a lot of it actually went into the Singapore presentation. The pitch deck will primarily be used for us to kind of present our financial picture to investors and VCs. And this is something that we'll be probably looking to engage in the coming months. I won't put an exact time frame on it. Corporate structuring is essentially how we look at all of the businesses that we have, where they're going to fit. Financial planning analysis is kind of looking at our budgeting and forecasting. And lastly, the Jira link form, which a lot of you have probably seen, is a way to kind of pull our community for all the expertise and qualifications that you have, and how that can be applied to this particular project. So that's a place that's kind of been something that I've been super interested in and have been kind of helping to roll out. So in summation, this is kind of what's been keeping us busy over the past few months, and will be keeping us very busy over the coming months as well. So with that, I wanted to kind of review some of the information that was presented in Singapore. And for those of you who weren't able to attend, or perhaps weren't able to catch the live stream, these are some of the highlights. So with that, I'll pass it to bmoney.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ken. This is more of a recap for whoever didn't get to go to Singapore, or for some reason missed out on the presentation. I think this is a slide that we should all be really proud of. What this is the collection of all the whitelist spot that we have been getting since the launch of Godjira, assuming you flip it on day one, multiplied by the quantity of whitelist that we get for USD at the time of the ETH was at when one flips, the resulting value we have given back to the holders is 7.1 million. That is a month ago. And thank you, Don, for pulling the backup together. It was very, very nicely done. And this is more of just a recap and history of what we have achieved so far. And obviously, we all have different opinions of the whitelist meta and like the Freeman meta and all that. But this shows you what the community is about from the outside, from the outside in, right? The more active you are here, the more active you are on Twitter Spaces and Twitter, just Twitter in general. People see that there is solidarity within the Gojira community, and we grew stronger, and we start getting attention from these new projects, and they're willing to give us good whitelist spots. And in some projects, we actually get more whitelist spots than other projects would have gotten because of Shan, because of the core team, because of just a lot of many reasons, because of our launchpad capabilities and all that. But none of that is, in my opinion, none of that is going to was nothing none of that was going to happen if we cannot demonstrate that we're doing it for a community that will also reciprocate, you know, their reaction and their love for the project. So it's almost like a mutually beneficial relationship that is manifesting in financial terms here. And and going forward, obviously we'll continue to get more benefits beyond whitelist, right? Because like Shan said, and I truly believe when I joined this project, right? Like as an NFT project, you can't just be getting whitelist, right? So I personally, I won't say I won't support, but personally, I just don't have a view on how sustainable some of the projects are out there if their entire thesis is to get whitelist, right? But Gojira is a heck lot more than that, right? On like, I mean, you go back to the previous page, you just saw how many things that we're working on. We're putting people in places to make sure money is not going away. Our security in the Discord is top notch. We never got hacked and all that. So we wanted to do this AMA because one, we felt like it's the right thing to do. Two, we also think like if you run like a legitimate project, you're owing holders regular updates. So oh, by the way, feel free to drop comments in the chat and let us know, for these like weekly or bi-weekly AMA, what you want the Jira Moneyminds to talk about. We're happy to talk about everything as long as we don't jeopardize the project. For example, leaking exactly what we're working on, blah blah blah. But yeah, so I think we should be proud of what we have achieved so far. And there's a lot more to come. We are truly busy working on many things. So with that said, I think the next slide is on our mint details and our war chest. And I think I'll pass it on to James to talk about this.
Hey, thanks, Brian. So yeah, we're going to just briefly kind of go over, what, how a snapshot of our financials look. Of course, these came from before, before the Singapore. So what these results don't reflect is our Jiraverse mint, and I can kind of talk briefly about that. So over from its inception to probably like mid-July, what we're saying is we've generated around 1,200 plus of ETH, with 39% coming from Gen 2, only 2% of it coming from Genesis, and about half of it coming from royalties. And most of these royalties are coming from our Genesis, if you can believe it. It's coming from our Genesis royalties, right? And then an emerging piece of our business, and more important piece of our business is our Launchpad, which is making up about 8%. Now, if we factor in what we made in the Jiraverse, that's contributed about another 460 ETH, from the mint to about now. So that includes about 450 ETH from the mint itself, as well as another 10 ETH from just ensuing royalties from that. So with that in mind, that shows you the strength of the demand of our tokens. I think royalties, generating at 50%. But as time moves along, we are going to be relying less on royalties, and looking forward to grow out the rest of our business. As mentioned in our in the Singapore presentation, we have a lot to work out in store in terms of revenue streams and business models that we're trying to implement, and that is going to be what's going to help sustain our project and our business going forward. So that's something to really look forward to. Now, if we look at the next slide, I think what we want to also talk about is that of the 1,200 ETH, at the time we had only spent about 8% of our proceeds so far to date. At that time, what we're saying is, we've spent about 4% on, I think, team compensation. We're trying to be very mindful and frugal about how we want to approach things. We also spent a little bit on in real life events, which includes the Singapore, Bali, and Manila events. And then development, which is just kind of miscellaneous dev costs for us to kind of push out the projects. And Sean and Jamie have really spent done a lot of things to really figure out in creative ways to really not spend money by either working out arrangements which are based off of contingencies, or we're helping them get other business. So that's been detailed out in previous chats, but what that results in is that we have 92% of these proceeds available to us to help build out our revenue, our business models going forward, which is something that, in addition to this 1,200, but in addition, plus also that 450 to 460 ETH that we've generated for the Jiraverse, and that's something that we're gonna use to our advantage. So, like I said, I think that's something we've tried to be very mindful. I know there's been a lot of projects that we've seen that have really tried to, it's their prerogative to decide how they want to spend it, but they've spent it on very lavish parties, and I think that that's great for them to kind of build out the brand. But I think, for us, we decided we want to, go a different path and really try to be responsible about how we want to move forward as a project now. And that's something that we want to kind of keep the spirit going forward. But we also realize the fact that you have to spend money to make money, and we want to use it judiciously to help us generate more revenues going forward. Okay. I think that's what I wanted to cover so far.
Yeah, James. There are a couple of questions that are coming through. I think the first you actually covered in terms of the proceeds from the Jiraverse mint. So I think hopefully that question's been answered. There's one about how we decide to price things in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think
answer that one.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it, and the others will kind of maybe. I think what we try to do is when we look at the projects that we're using, a lot of times we're using price discovery to figure out what people are willing to spend. And I think if you've noticed, we typically have run projects. We start with a blind bid, and that that helps us understand what the demand for the project is, and that usually helps drive, how we cost things out in our marketplace for those projects. And I think, in the past we've also tried to look at what the outside market is willing. We don't use this ourselves, but I mean there are other people who are buying whitelist on the outside market, and then they are using that to help determine what the price is. And we tried to loosely base off of it, but and I think that for us, with the price of Jira kind of being very volatile, we at one point we were using that to a certain extent, but now it makes it a little bit more difficult. But we try to use what the market will bear to help price out our spots. And in some cases, we try to also use raffles as a way of letting a lot of the holders that don't have a lot of Jira to spend on, but is able to participate by way of raffles. So that's something that we try to keep in mind when we put that into place. But I think going forward, when we have access to the gasless marketplace, we hope to be able to put a lot more of these whitelists on the market, and then there'll be a chance for a broader breadth of our holders to be able to participate in the marketplace without having to break their Jira bank. So that's something we're going to try to keep in mind going forward as well.
Cool, thanks, James. There is a question here about how we evaluating which NFTs to buy to add more value to our vault. So to that question, I think primarily speaking, that's been Sean and the rest of the core team that's made those decisions to date. I don't believe we've actually made that sort of investment recently. And I think we can check with Don and the Vault tracker to get a view on that. But the second part of the question is regarding, I think, revenue streams and what sort of revenue streams that we're looking at. I missed Sean's town hall yesterday, and I'm not sure if he spoke to this, but we also cover this in Singapore. And I can talk to a few of these items now. So first of all, the Launchpad, for example. The Launchpad, we've successfully launched a number of projects. Mine Blow On is probably the most successful launch we've had to date. They minted out, and we played a rather large role in that. When this happens, or before this happens, and in exchange for the services that we provide, we work out a deal with the project. I'm not able to disclose all the exact details, but usually that deal is a function of percentage of the mint and potentially of a percentage of future royalties. So that's definitely one big revenue stream, and one that we'll continue to leverage going forward. Another one that we're working on and have been working on is called Infinite Studios. Infinite Studios is basically our in-house development team. They are responsible for some of the things that you've already seen, which include the Jiraverse Mint site. And they are providing a lot of these smart contract services, Discord, secure Discord audit services, staking contracts, building of marketplaces, and things like this. So for when it comes to in-house development, of course, they help us, but being a project like PG, which has a big reach and a big name in the space, a lot of other projects reach out to us to get referrals for this kind of work that they need to get done for themselves. And when that happens, then we refer Infinite Studios. So Infinite Studios has a massive backlog of work, and they're extremely busy, and a portion of their P&L will be coming back to PG, its vault, and our holders. And not to go through every single revenue stream we have, but a couple other quick ones. So merch is going to be another big one, and there'll be a merchandising marketplace that'll be launched soon. That will have all sorts of different kinds of PG merchandise listed on there. That will be another revenue stream. And let's talk about the tools as well. So I think this was leaked during the Singapore presentation. We have the JiraBot tool that's used for Genesis holders now, and what's coming up is NFT nerds-like tool as well. This will be kind of a sort of, for the most part, free access tool for Gen 1 and Gen 2s, and then will be a paid-for service for those outside of this ecosystem. So these are just a few examples of some of the revenue streams that are either ongoing or on the way. Just kind of scrolling through the chat. I don't know, James or Brian, if you've kind of been able to catch some of these questions as they've been coming up.
Yeah, there was a question about how much of our vault is in ETH versus USDC. So just a quick, right now we have about 1,000 in ETH and about $1 million in USDC coin. And I'm sure that's gonna be constantly evaluated in terms of the ETH to USDC conversion, and that's gonna be evaluated depending on the market conditions. But yeah, so not everything is in ETH.
Okay, there's a question here about why the team decided to mint Jiraverse if we had roughly 1,200 ETH in the bank, and Jiraverse not having any purpose in the short term. I would say that Jiraverse is a kind of longer term strategic objective of this project. It's something that we talked about from relatively early on, that we were going to deliver metaverse assets to be used. And in terms of, I guess, the third drop that's not yet named, that is still to come, that's sort of the third piece of the puzzle that we're working on. As discussed in previous AMAs, I think the point there is that we still aren't in a position to know which metaverse is going to win. There are a lot of projects that decide to build on NFT worlds, for example, and of course, after what happened with Microsoft, that all went down the drain. So for those projects, they're kind of in a pretty bad position. So we're kind of waiting to see who is going to win out in the long term in the metaverse world, and try and figure out how we build out once that becomes a little bit more clear. And in addition, I'd like to say that I think what we're trying to do is really trying to allow us to develop as quickly as we can. There is some ETH that's in the vault, but I guess the capabilities that we have are only limited by what we can potentially do. There are lots of plans in place and lots of opportunities in front of us. This is something that definitely came to light when we were in Singapore and in Bali and in the Philippines. As Sean mentioned, there were many opportunities to meet lots of interesting groups and lots of interesting people with a lot of interesting opportunities. And I think these are things that are potential places where we can kind of put these funds to work.
There's a couple other questions that are on that says on slide 2 there was explanation on how value is created from whitelists being given out. However, these whitelists are limited, and given that there are quite a bit of Jira Gen 1 and Gen 2 owners, I think the value created would probably have been diluted. Question is, what other value is being planned for holders, and particularly for sleeping partners, i.e. folks who can't be in the Discord that often enough to snatch whitelist slots? And I think that is something that we're always kind of trying to think about. I think there have been people like Brain who've been trying to get discounts for different types of services, as hotels and education courses and the such. So that's something that we're going to look more into in real life benefits for NFT holders. So that's just one example, but that's something that's tangible right now, even though it's being rolled out slowly geography-wise. Looks like there's another question on what revenue stream is the project looking at outside of the NFT space? If one day NFTs really die off, are there any whitelist spots or new projects for Launchpad to be effective? How will the project still be generating profit, revenue, and value for holders?
Yeah, to this question, I'm not sure if I entirely understand the latter half of it. I think, first of all, being in Web3 and NFTs, I'd like to say that we're all kind of bullish on this space and expecting it to grow. If NFTs really aren't the technology of the future, then I'm not sure we're in the right place. And again, kind of referring back to our experience in Singapore and the sort of interaction we've seen with big Web2 companies, is that there is a strong belief that there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think this is why big Web2 companies are dipping in and trying to figure out how they can use this space to benefit their companies, their brands, and their revenues at the end of the day. And I think what we're trying to do here as a project is to really be that bridge to bring these Web2 companies into Web3. And that's kind of one of the main objectives of this project.
Okay. The next question I see from Purple Fire Ninja is, for development cost and such, how do you evaluate what's a necessary cost or worth the cost? Is there an industry standard you guys use to decide what we'll pay for development?
I guess, is this question, if it's regarding kind of the sort of development that Infinity Studios is doing for us now, then I think what we can rely on is the industry experience that people in the team have had to date. So whether that's Jamie and Shan and others in the team, when they engage with other external providers, they get quotes on different pieces of work. They're able to compare what is the cost of doing this contract with one kind of development house versus another. So I think there is that kind of knowledge that they've built up. What's the costs that we can expect for doing a certain piece of work, and secondly, if there is a major piece of work that we're going to require, then I think like any other sort of business, we look to get quotes and get a number of quotes and see what makes sense in terms of which way to go.
The truth is also we're very early in Web3. I know it is super cliche to say that, but it is true. A lot of developmental work that is not up to par, they're still charging ridiculous amount, right? It is hard to really judge at this point what is considered industry standard, right? When most people are advertising themselves through word of mouth and people you trust, and the product is not exactly perfect. When I say that, I mean when you're going on a minting site, sometimes people still get hacked, sometimes there are still hiccups, so the space is really nascent in that sense. And if you want Web 2 quality, then you have to pay Web 2 prices. So in that sense, it really depends on what you're looking at. But if you're talking about a task that is only done in the NFT space, I'm pretty sure I can tell you that from what I've seen, it comes down to what you're willing to pay for what project. So in a way, I'm also giving everyone a business idea here, is if you can create some sort of a consolidation website like an Expedia that can line up everyone's price list of what they do, that will be very, very fantastic. And also another question I wanted to address, I think it's from another holder on what other benefits are there for sleeping partners, so to speak, beyond whitelist giveaways. I think in the past we have done in real life giveaways. We give our watch. We have uh, we have alpha calls. We have degen calls. We have mental health seminars. We have NFT tools. We partner up with Dante Walker to give crypto courses. Dante actually had a very popular crypto course that people actually learned something from, right? That's actually where Dante Walker made his reputation in the crypto world. And then if you're in Godjira Discord, if there's an up and coming huge project coming on, I'm pretty sure you can request or you can expect there will be an AMA going on in the Discord with that kind of project that is access to thought leadership in the space. And then there's in real life benefits where you get discount in the Philippines for booking some education courses or hotel. I think there is hotel benefits in Dubai as we speak. Um, and I think it's the network that you're getting here. Um, of course, the creation of Jira Link is also to bring even more resources into the community so we can share, right? The power comes from the community members. For example, in the New York event, I was running into this holder who took the Jira and Kaiju to put on his product cover. He is running I think cannabis or something to do with, like, he's selling gummies basically, and I was looking at his packaging and I see Gojira and Kaiju up there. So it really comes down to what you can contribute to the community and what you're trying to get out of it. And I'm sure we're all ears to listen to various opinions and ideas. Any more questions?
I think I saw a question regarding an ETF.
Yeah, I found it. Have you guys thought of creating a type of ETF where staking your NFT earns you Jira and holders are able to exchange it to buy units for shares in coins, which is set up and advised through you guys? I guess This is to help diversify holders' investments.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure I understand. Feel free to DM me and we can kind of discuss one-on-one. There have been discussions about different kinds of ETFs where we get involved, but not exactly in this format. And those are kind of very early on in those discussions, so can't really talk too much about those at this point in time.
Also, in many ways, and this is my personal opinion, nothing to do with Gajira, is NFT has an art component of it, meaning there are if I, you cannot think of NFT as a stock, right? When I think about Apple stock, I'm not gonna look at Apple stock and say I want to buy above the market price. But in NFT you can because you for some reason you probably find another NFT that is not on the floor that is more attractive and you decided to pay more than the bare minimum to get into that community. So, and this is me as a finance guy talking. So if you're looking at NFT and you're trying to treat it as stock, being like the fact that you're trying to create an ETF out of it, that is almost like NFT itself is already illiquid, and bundling them together and then pretend that it's a diversified portfolio will not make it any more liquid than it already is not. Um, but nonetheless, people are exploring opportunities, and we do hear ideas here and there. It's just before we hear an absolutely home run idea, it is really hard for us to say, let's put our hard-earned money from the mint, from you guys, into this project and hope that it will go to the moon, right? I think part of us are here to gatekeep the money that we have, so at least we're not losing it. And when we're putting things together, we're putting into projects where we all sign off and feel comfortable that there's good enough upside for us to take that bet.
I think we're gonna probably close this up in the next 5 minutes or so. And before I do, was going to talk about a few ideas we had about what we might be able to talk in future sessions. I'm going to also drop a link into the chat where you can post suggestions. So I'm going to do that now. And of course, you're welcome to post in this chat as well if you think there are things that you'd like to have us talk about in future AMA sessions.
Yeah, sorry I was not as hands-on as I normally am. I'm trying to keep the girlfriend happy here, but I just wanted to say really quick, on behalf of like everybody, like me and myself, is just like I really like, honestly, this is like so appreciative of you guys to come out here and take time out of your busy schedules, and it's like just to like have the actual like ability to speak to people with so much like financial and diverse background as you guys. It's like it's pretty amazing and unprecedented into like the into the NFT space. And it's like we should only be so lucky that we're now like at this point of transparency that I feel like we're not just doing it to like say like we're doing better things than other people. We're more trying to like set the bar and a new standard for something that I feel like we all feel that the NFT space needs a lot more of. I mean, oftentimes like people spend a lot of money to be a part of this project, and it's a real unsettling feeling to not have any like idea at all or any clue where those funds are actually going. And like with Godjira, I just like it's like an honor to be a part of this, just to like see how much you guys are going in to like make sure that that transparency is just like compared to none. So it's like hopefully other projects will start doing this, because it's like something that it kind of blows my mind that the whole some people not being doxxed. Like why would anyone invest thousands of dollars in people who they don't have any clue who they actually are? And then also like a whole like detailed very transparent like revenue flow of like where like all that money is going. Because like we've all been saying, it's like some of these projects like give their founders and like the team just crazy payrolls that not that they haven't earned like $1 million, or like spending money on a party and like in some foreign country just to like throw down on your dollar and stuff. It's just like, I don't know. It's pretty amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you. I mean, I know I'm on the core team, but it's like it's actually pretty awesome to be able to come in here and just like hear you guys speak about it. So thank you guys like so much.
Yeah, thanks, Zero. Appreciate that.
But yeah, it's like pretty cool. Like we were saying, it's like nobody else is really doing this, and that's definitely something to. It's like a kind of makes me feel good, especially in this bear market right now. We're over here like talking about projects that, like you were saying, is we haven't spent like very much money, and it's because like that's not a sustainable business model, is to spend like 50% of all the money that comes in like right away, and then all of a sudden now like this bear market we're actually still building instead of just talking about it. Like talk is cheap, costs no ETH, but to actually build during it, that's what caused ETH. And I think that's the Jiraverse. The main thing about the Jiraverse was trying to give people a much smaller entry into the Godjira ecosystem, because we did a 333 collection. That's like dangerously small, and then a 3,333. Even in these like times where there's some projects that do 10K, it still is a very small number, and a lot of those Gen 2s are owned, multiples are owned by people. Like I own 6 Gen 2s, so it's like it's not that there's 3,333 opportunities for people to be Gen 2s. So like I think that's where the idea for the Jiraverse, and a lot of that idea of what's going behind that is a lot more than what people know, and that stuff's going to be getting rolled out in the weeks to come. And yeah, I just think that was like the main thing, is trying to make sure that like we weren't just like gatekeeping people behind stuff that's worth over an ETH. Some people that's a lot of money, and we definitely understand that. So that's where the whole Jiraverse came in.
Yeah, it looks like the questions have slowed down. So as I said, we're at least holding another 2 over the coming couple of weeks. So if you guys have suggestions on what you'd like to hear about, then yeah, please let us know.
Yeah.
But if that's it, then yeah, thanks everyone for your time, and thanks for attending.
Thank you so much. And yeah, this stuff is only as educational as you guys want to make it. The more questions and the more stuff you guys want to learn about, like they're more than happy to come up here and talk about all that stuff, and just talk about just working in finance if you're curious about that and how that relates to Web3 and like things like that. So I definitely implore everyone to come out here and like ask some tough questions. Come get educated. Like that's kind of like something that Jira has like been really really big on, is trying to like not make it where like you actually come and learn. It's more than just a community. It's like a chance where you can come and get like this like hands-on experience with people who normally this stuff is like really expensive to be able to chat with these people, or all this stuff. And here it is like at your fingertips, just easy for you guys just to come in and ask. So we'll definitely be doing more of them, and I really seriously just hope that everyone comes out and gets kind of comfortable enough to ask questions, because that's what we want.
Yeah, and lastly, just a little call, but there is the Jira link form. There is a channel for it. So if you have a particular skill set or qualifications that make you an expert in finance or in law or in technology or in banking, and you'd like to come in and contribute to the project in some way, then please do come and fill out that form. We have some big plans there, so looking forward to hearing from you all.
Amazing. Thank you, jkong, sakattacking, and bmoney. Thank you guys. Appreciate you and your hard work, and your taking time out of your busy schedules to come out here. It's again, thank you guys so much.